The VRS DirectForcePro wheelbase is my favourite wheelbase of all I've used so far, and that's a surprise to me. I honestly didn't expect anything special here because it doesn't come across as anything special. It has quite a low profile, I would say. Yet, the feedback seems extremely clean, responsive, raw and unfiltered, yet clear. The motor itself is industrial grade, rugged and bomb-proof, and some aspects of the kit that I initially perceived as outdated or inelegant, I've come to find reassuring. There are some compromises being made by the pure and simple approach that they seem to have taken here. There's no data connection running through the wheel shaft on the wheelbase. Almost all other brands have some form of data connection through the shaft, so this does create some cabling challenges. But with a price at time of recording of around £670, for 20 Nm of power, this is probably one of the best value and most satisfying wheelbases that I've ever had. Cheaper yet stronger than Moser's R16, Asetek's Forte, Simagic's Alpha, and let me tell you, if you get the four of those wheelbases together and play conkers, my money is on the heavy duty VRS being the last wheelbase standing. Let me run you through it. As with most of my hardware reviews, you should know that the hardware provided here, the VRS DirectForcePro wheelbase, was provided by VRS for free in exchange for review, and I do have an affiliate partnership with VRS. However, my words are my own, integrity is everything to me, and I have no problem saying what I like and what I don't like. I work with and review numerous sim racing brands now, and not a single one of them has made any attempt to influence or control the narrative in my video reviews. I would refuse to review their kit if they tried, and they do not see the videos before public release. Please watch the whole thing through first, but should you proceed to buy anything from VRS, as with most of my reviews, the link in the description is an affiliate link which, if you use it to purchase, will help support me at no added cost to you. And in fact, this one actually gives you a 5% discount through the link. So thank you very much for using that if you do. So take a look at the wheelbase kit in the online shop at present, and I'll bet you'll think the same thing I did. What's with the box? Why should a wheelbase need all these extra little bits when pretty much all wheelbases nowadays have it all contained within the unit itself? Only VRS seems to dictate the need for a separate control box, and not only that, but there's these tremendously thick cables as well. First impressions can lead you to thinking the DirectForce is outdated or overcomplicated, and I know this because that's how I initially perceived it. But I've incorrectly judged book covers before. I just needed to get on and give it a go. And my first exposure to this wheelbase was actually when I collected it from Apex Racing Team in Corby in the UK. They have a bunch of customer rigs where you can try out this equipment, so keep this in mind if you're local. Could just be a good idea to go and see for yourself. The contents of the kit will include the motor, and this is why I say industrial grade. You can probably find this exact part being used in industrial ham sandwich machines or CNC lathes. This itself is not branded, stamped, labelled or otherwise identifiable as a VRS product, neither on the box or on the base. It's a serious chunk of machine with serious data and power connection ports, but it is a motor without a mouth, because all the talking is done by this, the controller. This VRS branded controller is the separate box you see in the product photos. This handles power and data signals, connecting to the wheelbase motor via these beefy cables, telling the motor what to do and supplying it with the power to do it. If you're the sort that worries about the frailty of USB connectors dotted around your rig, you'll have no such trouble here. These are pure beef. Being a front-mounted wheelbase, similar to SimiCube and Simagic, the ideal way to mount this is with a front-mounting bracket, so whatever sim rig you have, the manufacturer should have a bracket to suit. My rig is a GT Omega Prime, so I have myself one of their brackets for front-mounting bases. The motor can be oriented in any of the four directions. I just happen to mount it with the cables facing down, as sideways access is blocked by the rig mount. They don't get in the way at all there, but I could turn the motor around to have the cables pointing up if necessary at any stage. The motor doesn't care which way it's facing, just that it's pointing at you. There's also the VRS bracket mount, but I tried to use this. It didn't quite fit the pre-drilled holes on my Prime's wheel deck, and I didn't much fancy drilling my own. Your mileage may vary and you might be fine. I wasn't, so I just opted for the front mount to go all the way. Once hooked up, it's time for software, and that's all done through the DirectForcePro config tool. This is a simple and easy to use software tool that can adjust multiple aspects of your VRS kit. At the moment, I've got the wheelbase, pedals and VRS wheel under test, so I have all of them visible within it. The settings to hand can produce distinctly different feedback styles. For your interest, my preferred force feedback settings are as such: 70% max force, so there's more power in reserve that I'm not even using yet, with zero damping, friction, inertia or spring. The smoothing filter is set to responsive 1 and the slew rate is set to performance. The force feedback level is then adjusted from game to game according to taste. So in iRacing, that ranges from a power level of 10 in the Porsche Cup with its light steering to a power level of around 6 or 7 in the likes of GT3s or Super Formula with heavier steering. As I'm about to demonstrate, these settings make me very happy. And so it comes to driving, the most important aspect of a wheelbase, and I have to say that after a little bit of tinkering with the settings that I just listed off, I found myself driving my first few serious laps with a profound feeling that I could simply steer my way out of almost any trouble. The feedback was lightning quick, responsive and pure in its feeling. Bear in mind, I've installed the VRS DirectForcePro after using an Acertec Invicta for a good amount of time, and that is a very highly regarded and capable wheelbase that costs almost double this. But there's something special about this force feedback system that just scratches and scrapes the deepest and most direct neurons in my mind and feels completely in lockstep with my hand-eye coordination. In sim racing, a large part of your speed comes from confidence, and a large part of your confidence comes from your ability to detect what the car's doing, and I've never felt quite so in tune with what the car's doing than now. The agility and responsiveness I'm feeling with these settings feels like I'm driving on clear, visible boundaries of balance, making corrections and micro saves that allow me to keep my right foot planted through the worst of it. Maybe I've just had a good night's sleep. Maybe I really do just enjoy the subtle differences in feedback flavour that I'm getting here. Or maybe I just acted more like a pro because the equipment almost seems like it belongs to a pro, if that makes any sense. I'm not sure. Whatever the case, whether it's completely imagined or totally real, this has now become the wheelbase that I would reach for if my life depended on a lap time. It seems like a mature product now, and it has been out on the market for a few years, and that means that there's been enough time for a bad reputation to stick, but it doesn't seem to be one. I'm a late adopter, so I usually get to see stuff when it's at its most refined and least costly. The use of VRS equipment in the ESL R1 Esports event adds credibility to VRS's heavy-duty professional credentials just by sheer fact that there didn't seem to be any complaints about it. Notably, Oscar Piastri's sim is a VRS setup as well. So I do mention compromises in the intro, so let's talk about that. One compromise, or benefit, depending on how you slice it, is that there's no ecosystem with VRS. There's no data transfer through the wheel shaft. You can't just plonk a wheel on and it will work like you do with Moser and Acertec and Simagic and those kind of brands. All wheels that you connect to the VRS DirectForcePro base will have to either be cabled in or operated completely wirelessly. The silver lining with that is that you pay no penalty going off reservation and just using whatever wheel you want. Whereas if you're in a system that has an ecosystem lock-in, that has data going through the wheel shaft, you kind of feel like you're trading in convenience in order to use one of the many lovely third-party wheels that exist now. Cabling steering wheels in with coiled cables like this can appear clumsy, but it's a normal scenario for third-party wheels out there. This is just what people are used to doing at the high end, and once the wheel's in place, this coiled cable makes it so that you don't really notice that it's there once you've just got it connected. You're too busy racing to really notice this winding around the steering column as you turn corners. You just don't really know it's there. The wheel you can see here is VRS's own DirectForcePro Formula Wheel, and naturally this might have first dibs on your money. If you're buying a VRS DirectForcePro base, it makes sense to consider it. It's presented as the thing that goes with the other thing, so let's talk about it. It's made in the Netherlands and it's not a bad wheel. It's shaped and sized nicely, feels good in your hands, and once again, in a game of conkers, this thing will win. But for around 550 quid at the moment, it's just expensive for what it is. It's pretty basic in terms of looks and features, no onboard lighting such as a rev strip or button lights, but it does seem legitimately durable and hard wearing. This is the Pro version. There is a light version which is quite a bit cheaper at around 420 quid if you have no need for the central dials or clutch paddles. The VRS wheel connects either via the screw-in cable or completely wirelessly via Bluetooth. It does actually have Bluetooth on board here. It's got an integrated rechargeable battery. However, whilst it has Bluetooth, it doesn't connect to the base. You have to have a Bluetooth dongle or some kind of Bluetooth receiver on your PC for it to connect to. It wasn't that confidence inspiring, and really speaking, you need your wheel controls to be rock solid reliable, and I am not a fan of wireless connectivity to do that job. I'm just not. So personally, I wouldn't place too much importance on that Bluetooth connectivity. I would always just recommend using the hard cable. Moser, when they came out initially, they used Bluetooth to communicate between their wheels and the wheelbase, and even they have seen that it's just not worth it, and they've ditched it for hard connections since then. So Bluetooth and wireless connectivity, not that confidence inspiring. I know that SimiCube do their own system, but that's them, and this is this. Hard cable will always be the better option for pure reliability and dependability, and this VRS system of all things, that's its character, so I would just go hard cable all day long. At the back of the wheel we've got shifter paddles and dual clutch paddles. The shifters, they're not exactly luxurious because they're really loud and uncushioned. You can hear the metallic ping as they activate. You just need to listen. They're not the most luxurious or good feeling shifter paddles ever, and you're going to be using them thousands of times, so it really matters that they feel good. These don't exactly feel very luxurious to me. It's really not a bad wheel overall. It feels so super heavy duty, and I'm sure that it will be as long lasting and durable as the base, but it's just not as good value as it could be, and VRS seem to have accepted this because the price you see right now is actually heavily discounted from what it was upon release. But on the other side of the coin, this wheel is made in the Netherlands, not made in China, so that can obviously contribute to the cost of such a thing, and that really matters for some people. The primary compelling reason to choose this wheel over other solid options is because it's just the VRS thing to go with the other VRS thing, and that's a good enough reason for a lot of people, and it keeps it all thematically similar on your rig. I mean, I would personally rather have complete brand cohesion on my rig if I could help it, and it being European made also counts pretty highly as well. Another compromise, or benefit, depending on how you slice it, is the extra bulk and sprawl in the componentry. That control box has to live somewhere. Mine sits right next to my butt kicker amplifier, which also does pretty much the same job, supplying power and control to a component that resides elsewhere on the rig. Same goes for the thick power and data cables. These old school connectors are seldom seen in the world of sim racing. It may appear a bit overcomplicated, but think of it this way. If a control unit, cables or motor were to fail, you only have to worry about the component that failed. You don't have to send the whole base off for repair. It's a segmentation of roles, and that is something that you see a lot of in professional industrial grade equipment in any industry. It's function at the expense of form and simplicity. Performance has been focused on at the expense of style, and that can be its own form of style. A lot of people love that approach. My final thoughts are as such. If you're someone that looks for performance, durability and reliability above all other factors, I'm not sure that there's a better value wheelbase for you right now. It's not flashy or proud, which only adds to the perception that this is a hidden gem, a well-kept secret. It's giving me the best force feedback I've experienced so far, full stop. The differences between this and other wheelbases I've had are thin, but they are there and I feel it. It's important to say that I've not yet had the chance to spend time with anything from SimiCube or Simagic yet, but here's the thing. The same things that make me feel confident saying that this wheelbase must be right up there in terms of performance and value for money, despite not having tried everything, are the same things that'll make you feel confident you made the right choice for yourself. When equipment satisfies you and leaves you feeling content, you've got little reason to look over the fence at someone else's grass to see if it's greener than yours, especially if you paid less. It's been around for a few years now, and its reputation seems to be one of quiet satisfaction. VRS doesn't get name dropped much in conversation, well the pedals do, but that's another matter, but it seems that those who know, know. But I now know what those who know, and as someone who didn't expect much of this wheelbase to begin with, to go on to become my favourite wheelbase on the grounds of all those attributes is a nice surprise. And that's it, and thank you very much for watching. I hope it was entertaining and informative for you. Please feel free to ask any questions, comments, or just leave feedback. Do it below in the comments, they're very, very welcome. And obviously, if you do proceed to go on to buy VRS off the back of this, using the links in the description to do so gets you a discount, and it also supports me in turn. So thank you very much for that, and cheers again.